Hello everyone, guess what? It's tax season, which means that in addition to filing my quarterly reports, I also now have to file an annual one, and it's complications and things, and dealings with the filings and whatnot. Things adult for what, not for confusion. Exactly. Now, I don't have a lot of time. Plus I'm doing the Bloodborne animation thing, so let's make a shortish video for shortest attention spans. Yes, like mine. Now, I thought that a good thing to do, and I had this idea before I even decided to do a shorter video, was to focus on trying to get some basic instruction on how to make tiny, itty-bitty little icons and sprites and things like that. There's different kinds of these, and it came up recently because I got partnered on Twitch, and I decided to make some little icons. And to that end, I used the girls, if you remember them, as a means of actually doing that. And by the way, I'm recording at this big ass Cintiq, whatever the hell its resolution is, like 1,000,000 by 1 quillion or something. So I'll blow these up, but this is, hold on, this is native resolution for me. And this is 112 pixels. So it probably, I guess 200% would probably look a bit more normal to you guys. Twitch asks for several different sizes of these things. It asks for 112 pixel, which I don't know where it uses that. It asks for a 56 pixel, which I don't know where it uses that either. And then lastly, it asks for a 28 pixel size image, which is really, really, really tiny. You guys probably can't even see this on your screen. This is native resolution. Like, I don't need to zoom in. This is native to me. And even to you guys, like 200%, twice as big as it should be, that's what it looks like. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's, as you can probably imagine, it's almost impossible to tell what the hell it is that you're looking at. And just for the hell of it, let's pick out some more infamous looking ones that people will instantly recognize, like PJ Salt. Like, that's a very recognizable one. Kappa is probably the most recognizable one ever. And my personal favorite, good old PogChamp. I love PogChamp. Now, whenever you are making anything like this, like a very tiny itty-bitty little icon, you might think, oh, that won't take any time at all. It's way more difficult than drawing. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's actually a pain in the ass. You guys probably can't even see this. But a lot of these, if you zoom in, you'll realize they're almost completely unrecognizable whenever you're actually rendering them out up close. And most of the icons that you will actually see on Twitch are just photographs that have been shrunk down. And if you take, like, your own example, and I don't have a head floating around anywhere that I can use for this, aside from mine. Nah, we're not gonna do that. You'll notice that, if you take your own and shrink it down, it'll probably end up being so blurry that you can't tell what the hell it is that you're even looking at. And it's completely useless to you. So, one of the things I wanted to point out in regards to making these things is not only how difficult it is in terms of just drawing the thing, but also, and like, the reason why I'm starting this is because my Emote one specifically, like, up close you can definitely tell it's her. And this is the original, the actual full-size one. Up close you can tell it's her, but the weakness of this is, I'm going to point out, is that she doesn't have a lot of contrast. So whenever you actually view her in native resolution, which to me is this again, you can't see anything. Or maybe 200% you might be able to pick it up a little bit better. You can't really see much of anything. It's kind of hard to tell what exactly it is. It kind of looks fine whenever you actually view it on Twitch, but it could be better. So even though I may not even use this, I wanted to actually take a swing at attempting to do this one more time. In regards to how to do this in the first place, before we even get to the actual drawing part, what is more important is composition. Even though this is showing up as a black background because I'm pulling PNGs which have translucency off the web and putting them in here, that's where we're getting this black background from. Otherwise, it would actually be white. Let's see if I can do that real fast. It would actually show up as being completely white, like this. Not a perfect representation, but it would look more or less like this. So, one of the things that you really have to worry about is what is it going to be seen on? And in most cases, it's going to be seen on a white background. But don't take that for granted because Twitch does have like a dark mode. And especially if you use an extension, you can make the whole thing black, which means that translucency is important. So it's important that even if it's seen on a white background or a black background, you can still tell what it is. Now, technically, you can make a perfectly square emoticon of some kind. You know, there's a few of those, but generally you want to make it so that you can actually, like, here, for example, this is one. Like a Minecraft icon, for example. Very ordinary, very straightforward thing. They work, but, you know, generally not the best idea. So you want to try to utilize the space that you're provided, and since the space is so small, you really have to focus on things like the overall shape of the object that you're putting in. Like in all these, there's enough space left around the edges or in specific areas so that you actually get a defined shape. And one of the problems with Emote is that she has this big poofy hair. Like she looks like a hoodlum in Japan, where they still have the pompadours, and because they never got the note about that. I guess I don't know what the hell's up with that. So a lot of her profile, like I think that Sheres is a little bit more successful because she's already kind of got a round head anyways. So I don't need to worry too much about her hair or anything occupying too much of the overall image. With Amoya, it's more, you know, so much of her hair. Like, she has huge hair, which I like about her, but it does not serve for my purposes of actually trying to wedge her inside of a little emoticon, as you can see here. And in addition to that, you have to worry about things like contrast. Contrast is probably even more important. Like, even with, say, Kappa here, because so much of the space is white, like there's actually a Kappa HD, and the Kappa HD to me is actually a little bit more difficult to see. And it's a little bit more difficult, well, I guess I can't switch to it. It's more difficult to see to me because it actually has color. And you might wonder, well, more color means more resolution, right? No, it doesn't. Actually, the fact that it's black and white actually helps it quite a lot because it just creates even more contrast. And contrast is really important whenever making something this small. Because if you zoom all the way in, you'll notice there are no eyes being drawn here. These are just blobs of gray and a little bit of dark. It's almost nothing. Like, it's almost absolutely nothing. And the fact that it's so incredibly zoomed out is the only reason why you're able to even get a hint that it's a person. But it works very well. Same with PogChamp here, even though PogChamp is in color. The fact that he has black hair, he has very kind of brightish skin, the expression is very exaggerated, so it's very easy for it to stand out. His cheekbones are very high, and it's casting shadows down below here, which is also creating more contrast. It's just a good overall image in terms of its contrast and its overall shape and its ability to create a very visible emotion from long range, or in this case, low resolution. And if you zoom in, you'll notice even though you could make out his eyes at a smaller resolution, you know, zoomed out, whenever you zoom in, it just looks like nothing. So whenever you're actually drawing these by hand, like, you're not actually just taking a photograph and shrinking it down, which, if you do that, then you can wind up with mixed results. Because there's no way of telling what the program's going to select in terms of what colors go where, whenever it's reducing all those very complicated pixels into very, very itty-bitty little baby ones. So, you can imagine how difficult it is whenever you're actually trying to physically draw something this big. And it's just this. That's all it is, just this big. Very, very tiny. You need to focus on contrast, and even more than that, whenever you're creating these contrasts, because everything is sort of blurred and is supposed to look sort of natural looking, you can, like that Minecraft one that I showed you. That's obviously primary colors, like there's no real blurring or anything because it's not meant to be realistic anyways. But whenever you're trying to do something like this and trying to create enough of these tiny itty bitty little details and blur out specific colors to make it look like there's an eye, when in fact there's not, that is insanely difficult. If you have zero experience of doing it, it's borderline impossible. Can't do it. I do not have a ton of experience doing it. I have drawn sprites in the past, but I don't do it all that much. I don't do it all that much. So in regards to Amoya here, I really want to shore her up. Why is it doing that? Oh, yeah. The 28 image I went back over because it wasn't showing up natively that well. So, without further ado, I guess I will try to draw Emoya one more time. I probably won't even end up using this, but I thought it would be a good exercise. I've already kind of gone over the basic problems that we're going to have to be looking at, but now we'll just start out here. I'll have to move my mic away from me. So, the old problem, actually, let's bring that up real fast. The old problem that we had was that Emoya's skin tone and hair tone were too close together. So it was actually kind of blending her features in with each other very easily. Like if you zoom out, like this is probably what the emoticon would probably look like at this range. It's not going to look exactly the same, so you don't just draw it at one, like the Twitch sizes are, like I'm working right now at 112 pixels. 112 pixels. And then whenever you export, on Twitch at least, they want a 56 size, which would look like this, at 100 resolution. And then they want a 28 size, which looks like this, which is, you know, again, fucking tiny as shit and gets on my fucking nerves. So, how can we fix this? Let's troubleshoot this. How can we fix this problem? First off, you'll notice I was trying to create a lot of shapes, like what I was talking about before, so that a lot of space is empty so that you can actually make out the profile very easily. But again, Amoya's hair is fucking enormous, so it takes up a good, probably more than 50% of how I draw her. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. And by the way, if you don't know who Amoya and Shirei are, the girls here, it's, if you remember my let's gripe about Saiyan women or whatever it was, they kind of stem from that, and now they are their own characters, do not steal, etc. And they'll be part of a project that I'll probably do this summer or something like that, if I actually have time and nothing comes up. Anyways, no need to worry about that. Her colors are also creating a problem, so I think I need to actually reduce her skin tone. Even though she's actually pretty tan, and her hair is kind of a light reddish color as far as her actual on-model look goes, I'll have to cheat a little bit and add a little bit more exaggeration to be able to get her to show up a little bit better. Again, the original looked more or less okay, but it could have been a lot better. So, let's see. A good way of handling this. I also want to exaggerate her emotion a bit more, especially at long range. Like, I was actually pretty pleased with Shirei, because she has a very visible motion. Her eyes are more exaggeratedly huge in comparison to her normal model. Her mouth is making a big area. It's fairly visible on Twitch. It's not that big a deal. With Amoya, she doesn't really have a personality like that, so it was kind of a struggle to do that. But I thought I might, instead of giving her sort of an indifferent look, I might make her a little bit more angry this time around. And whenever you're working on these little things, it's good to start out with a sketch. And it's good to start out with a sketch that's a little bit bigger. In this case, I'll be working at that 112. And it's good to do that because you don't want to start trying to work natively whenever you don't even have an idea yet. You're just going to end up creating problems for yourself. And I think I want to try to exaggerate her a little bit more like this. And in this case, I think I've decided for myself that I didn't want to focus too much on her eyes. I could have them kind of closed, like she's screaming or something like that. But I could also just have her look very upset. Troubleshooting on the fly, guys. Troubleshooting on the fly. But either way, I think I want to raise this portion, which means I need to move her cheek line up some. And in this way, since we're kind of looking up, I can cheat a little bit in regards to how much space her hair is occupying. And I might be able to fidget my way into something that works a little bit better. And it's never going to look right the first time you go through a pass, so don't worry too much about that. Eyes are a big problem. Eyes are a big problem. Usually, you're only going to get like a single pixel width to be able to get the black of the iris, the pupil. And whenever you start adding in the irises too and worrying about the white of the eyes, it's even more of a problem. She looks really freaky and demonic right now. It's kind of funny. And I think I don't want to have her have the exact same sort of open mouth thing that Sherry has. Maybe like a look of frustration, like that. So that's a primary pass. Do I still have that in my clipboard? No, I don't. Okay. Oh well. I did have a previous drawing that I had done that was a little bit more short up than this one. But it is lost to the ages. Okay, so now we've done a primary pass. Let's go back over it and remember our little rules that we set for ourselves. So, a lot of area focused on the skin. Let's add some guiding lines, just for the hell of it. You might think that you can just... You can draw these at this resolution and then shrink them down like you would a photograph, like how they handle most Twitch things. But you'll get a lot of mixed results, and you'll probably end up having to do some editing. That's what I had been doing. It kind of looked more or less okay, but it could be a lot better. I actually did some... The badges. I did badges for Twitch. And I actually started out with this one. I made this one first. This is my little Twitch badge on twitch.tv. For anyone that has subscribed, you get a little upset plague kitty icon. And this is the 32 version upscaled. I don't know where they use the 32 version. I've never seen it. And finally, this is the 72 version. So I just ended up redrawing them all. In this case, this one especially ends up looking really nice whenever it's used on Picardo. Picardo can actually use big emoticons, whereas Twitch for some reason is obsessed with using these tiny little useless ones that are, you know, so tiny you can't even see anything. I still don't know what the hell that mid-size one's for. But anyways, in this case, I just started at the native resolution because I wanted to make absolutely certain that these showed up correctly. If I just shrunk down... Actually, let's do that real fast. If I'd shrunk down this one to 28, then you could probably still see it. I mean, it looks more or less okay, but it's not really that obvious what the hell's going on. Whereas this one, even though it's obviously less realistic looking or whatever, you can definitely tell what the hell it is. I'm focused a lot more on contrast. Like, the eyes are bigger, there's more white in the eyes, there's not really any shading to speak of. There's more of a focus on leaving these little empty edges around it. Works a lot better. So whenever you're doing either one of these sort of sizes, just keep in mind that you can't just start big and then immediately go small. You'll probably have to either redraw the entire thing, or you'll probably have to redraw the entire thing or make some alterations. And with Amoya here, I think I want to try to keep her hair a little bit away from her eyes this time, because that was blending in a little bit too much. So let's see if we can actually... I don't really like the shape of those eyes. And this is one of my problems in doing this, is that I tend to focus... I'm so used to illustrating that I do tend to focus a little bit too much on the larger size without worrying too much about the smaller one. One thing that I could do is kind of already shrink this down and start working that up to be something that actually does show up well in terms of contrast. And then once I'm done with that, then I can blow it back up and then start on the actual final result, which I think I will actually do. And actually trying to get her hair just right is very complicated. Because again, she has that big poof. Poof. It's a fun word. Poof. She has that big old poof. Pumph. And it creates a lot of problems for me. Creates a lot of problems for Daddy, doesn't it? Doesn't it, daughter Emoya? Yes, you are the problem child. Emoya's not always angry, but she is a fairly serious person. Loves fighting and loves meat. She's not overly complicated. Loves fighting, loves meat. Just like me. Less so the fighting, more the meat. More arguing and meat, yes. Arguing and meat. Alright. And I won't be doing this entire thing, like this is too close together, for example. I won't be doing this entire thing. I'll skip ahead some. But I wanted to, since I wanted this to be kind of a one-shot thing where I didn't do a whole lot of editing because of the time constraints. I can make the video long, but I don't want to have to edit a whole lot out, and I don't want it to be overly boring or anything either. Like that, I can actually bring that up even more, actually. Don't be afraid of making huge adjustments and kind of seemingly ruining the image. It doesn't really matter all that much, because you're going to be, it's not the final result anyways, and it's good that you should be able to play with the image overall. Okay. Let's do that, because I want to fix some of this area. Oh no, what are you doing? It doesn't matter. Just don't worry about it. Don't get hung up on the thing that you've already done. Don't get hung up on the parts that you've already drawn. That's only going to restrict you. Don't be afraid of completely discarding the whole thing. Like, it just does not matter. And I'm going to flip just to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. I want to move that a little bit. And I want to keep... I want this area to have enough contrast to it. Like, this would be a big empty area of mostly skin color, so that her emotion is reading a little bit more from a... I call it longer range, but, you know, it's smaller resolution. And work like that. And even though I typically draw them with eyebrows sort of like this, I think I'll just add just a single line in this case. That way I can avoid that problem entirely. Because the more lines that you add... That's another thing. The more lines that you add, the more resolution you attempt to give it, or the more detail. The more detail that you attempt to give the image at this level, the more problems that you are going to create at a smaller level. So really, the fewer amount of lines that you can draw, the better off you are going to be. And actually having her with smaller eyes anyways would probably work better in terms of showing off her emotion. What does that look compared to the original? Yeah, it's much better than the original. Alright, let's merge this down, and then I'm going to change the resolution down to 28. And at 28, this is 500%. This is 100% for me. 200%. So it's actually fairly visible. I would be worried most about the hairline blending in with the eyes, the lines of the eyes. Because I do want her upper eyes to be dark, because ladies always have upper dark eyes, yes. The eyeliner kind of deal. So actually trying to keep her hairline, which I also have to draw away from the tops of her eyes, is kind of a problem. I can either try to just put both of them together, which I think I might do, because it will just end up kind of giving her... What's the name of that character from Kill la Kill? The one that's always hoity-toity and angry about everything and thinks her farts don't smell? That lady. Kind of ends up making her look like that. Kind of makes it look like she has a Hime cut. I think that's what it's called. So we'll do that. I'm working at this resolution so that I can actually tell what the hell it is that I'm doing. And you can tell even here, I'm running into problems again with her hair. So what I can actually do, let's move this down some. Pull this up. You can tell how difficult this can be and how time-consuming it can actually be. You think that since it's such a smaller image, it's actually much easier. No, it is definitely not that. And again, we want to focus on having contrast. Don't be afraid whenever you are working in this tight little... And by the way, I didn't mention this, but the reason why it's a square is because on the internet, whenever things... Like if you post on an image board or something, if you are using like a 500 by 500 or 1000 by 1000 or 2000 by 2000 or something, whenever it automatically adjusts the resolution and downscales it, it will maintain its resolution way better than if it was, say, 500 by 539 or something stupid. Like, there's no reason to not have even resolution in most cases, unless you're working specifically for creating, like, desktop images or something. So, that's the reason why I'm working in a tiny little box. But I was going to say, whenever you're doing this, don't be afraid to go right over to the edge, because that's what it's for. I mean, this is the total amount of area that you have to work with. Just make sure that you have some negative space on the sides. That way, it's recognizable what you're drawing. But definitely don't be afraid to utilize all the way to the edge. Don't leave like a white border around the entire image just because you're terrified of using it. All right. So that looks a bit better in terms of... Yeah, it's more recognizable, but I think right now that's just because the lines are so thick. And because I'm leaving such a huge amount of space that is not filled in with color right now. Which is fine. That's actually fine. So right now this looks, to me, you guys probably can't even see this. This is 500%. This is 5 times as big as it needs to be. So this will probably look a bit better to you guys. This looks more or less okay in terms of the overall goal that I'm working towards. By moving her face up and tilting her face up like this, it causes her head to kind of tilt back and focuses less on her hair, which gives me more area to work with in regards to her face without altering her model that much. And this really, the more important thing to me... The most important thing whenever you're doing like a face or something, like if you're just drawing a piece of cheese or something, like, oh, here's a piece of cheese, then you did it. You drew a piece of cheese. I'm clapping in the background. Good job, you drew cheese. Or you're drawing like a salt shaker. Remember the PJ Salt one? You drew that. You know, it's recognizable. Who cares? Whenever you're doing a face, it's a lot more complicated. Human beings are used to looking at faces all the time. Because we like looking at faces. It's our hobby as a species. We're awful creatures. So whenever you actually start drawing one, the thing you probably need to focus on more than like jewelry or their hairstyle or so on is their actual emotion. Like their facial features. Mouth, nose, brow, eyes. Focus very intensely on that. If those are not coming in clear, then you have a failed image. Especially if you're making something for the express purposes of creating like a little emoticon. Which, that's what their purpose is. So that people can go, I'm reacting in this way. I'm upset about this pornography, or whatever it is. And that's how it's done, yeah. So we have a big... I drew that very, very small so that we could look at it at native resolution to what we're going to be exporting as. And then I blew it up. And you see how shitty that turned out because I blew it up. This is how changing resolutions works. So after I did that, lost a shit ton of that original look. So don't work small and then try to blow up. You definitely cannot do that. Not unless you're working like with vectors or something. Which if you're making emoticons, I don't know why you'd be working in vectors, but I guess that's one option too. It would make it easier for export, that's for sure. It probably wouldn't look very good, though. Okay, so now that we have this, and I'll just try to power through this because I don't want to do like time-lapse stuff and post-commentary this time around. After we've done this, I'm going to take my binary pen, which you know me, I fucking love binary. I'm going to take my binary pen and I'm going to focus on the most even. It's not going to look this way in the final. It isn't. But I'm going to take my binary pen and just focus on creating contrast. Contrast everywhere that I can put it. And this is actually going to be fairly difficult. Especially working in this original, really tiny version that I should not have. I probably should have kept a... I probably should have kept a larger version of this resolution now that I think about it. Because working over this blurry image is not really helping me too much. And if I was drawing an actual illustration, I would start adding like little lines here, like a little cheek line or something. But that's only going to complicate matters, so let's not do that. I'll give her a little eyelash here and a little eyelash over here. And again, we're not focusing on details at this point. Just keep in mind the very basic framework of where all the colors and everything are going to be going, or not be going, more importantly. And I actually probably could move up this nose a little bit if she's going to be tilted up that much. And it's definitely not going to look like this because with the reduced resolution, especially, it's going to fudge a lot of the details. Just try to, whenever you're creating your line work, if you're working this way, try whenever you are putting these down to exaggerate thickness where it needs to be thick and exaggerate, not thickness, thinness, where there isn't going to be as much light. So this I actually probably need to get rid of a little bit. So have it be sort of like that. And again, this is all to try to create... Yeah, I better do that. All to try to create a cohesive image in terms of contrast. And I could... the reason I'm putting the hair here is to try to evoke the look of eyebrows. Like, I'm trying to get away with drawing the hairline where the bangs are coming down as both a furrowed brow like this and also the hairline. It's a way of trying to cheat around not having enough resolution. Might be able to get away with it, maybe not. And notice I like drawing these little, I don't know, these little hair dealies. I think, isn't that what Sokka called them? Hair dealies or something? I can't remember. But I like drawing those on the girls for some reason. I've been trying to get move away from it in terms of drawing Shirei specifically. Because I started wondering how it would translate into a real hairstyle, and I wanted to make sure that it was something that people could play with themselves if they felt so inclined. This is not really the emotion that I'm trying to convey. You pull that down a little bit. It works a little bit better. And you also need to make sure that it's properly lined. Make sure that you flip your canvas just to be sure. And even though you're not going to... I'll probably end up actually not having her eye color at all if I'm trying to make her look angry. Which is unfortunate. But that is how it gonna be. That it how it do. That is how it do indeed. Okay. And again, focus a lot on trying to get the overall shape to come through. So that it's obvious, even at a very tiny resolution, what it is that you're looking at. And I can guarantee you right now, this is not going to work too well. And I probably am not going to be using this. But it is possible that I will be surprised. Because you never quite know what exactly it is that you're going to be getting. I'm trying to use as few lines as I possibly can. Although the overall... Yeah, okay, I could do that. Just add in one little curve right there. And that'll at least... it's not perfect, but it'll shore things up a little bit. And Moya... Well, actually, Shorika is probably one that would be the most complicated. Sharika is the one that has white hair and has really tall ears. Like, actually, hold on, real fast. I'll let that load, I guess. I'll show you pictures of them here at the end. And that's not perfect. And again, this is not the final thing that we were working on anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you guys get the idea. So we take that and we shrink it back down to 28. And we see what we get. Yeah, see. Not exactly where it needs to be in terms of structure or anything, but you can definitely tell what it is. And even whenever I go all the way out, I can still tell what it is. So in terms of making an icon, I haven't added any colors or anything. But in terms of making an icon, I think the overall idea, at least, is working a little bit more successfully than the prior one did. And given enough time, especially time, which I don't have right now, then I would definitely be able to finally shore this up into something that works a little bit better. And I don't think I'm going to have time to actually show a final result for you guys, unfortunately. But briefly, I'll just show you who the girls are. Like, this is... If my mouse can stop screwing up. This is Emote and Shiri. Like, you remember them. And... Sharika is like, you've seen the other girl, the Kieran, who I was working on before. And Sharika's final model, of course, was this one. That's Sharika. And you can tell that she would be the most difficult because she has a very, very tall profile in terms of her head. Like, she has long hair, so I couldn't draw all the hair. She has very tall ears, which are almost always pointing directly up, which would not really work well for a Twitch emote. And she has very, kind of thin facial features. So she would probably not translate very well at all into something like that. Unless, of course, I decided to go in another direction, which I did earlier. Before I knew what the exact resolution was going to be, I was practicing. And I made this series, which are just blocked off square images of the girls' heads. Meant to try to show off emotions a little bit better. This is Kieran, looking angry. I really like hers the best because hers shows up the most. Because she has a lot of contrast to her image. It took a while of practicing before I got that just right. And finally, there's Sharika. That's how I handled Sharika in this one. I want to make her look indifferent. Or disappointed in people. But just zooming in like that was a good way of actually remedying that problem. So that's another possibility. Since I just started doing this, I don't think I've had a stream since I actually had the new emotes installed. But people may or may not be happy with them. I am not sure yet. I'll worry about that in the future. But for the time being, I don't really have time to deal with it because I really need to get back to working on my animation. So I'm sorry, Emoya Head. I'm sorry, Little Miss Emoya Head. But I don't really have the time to worry about you too much. But the final thing I want to show as far as how I did this is once you have a final... Actually, hold on. Where's that image I just pulled up? I could just use... I could use... Don't start... Windows. I could just use this part. Does it constrain? No, it doesn't. You can hold down Shift in Photoshop and it'll do that automatically. Let's do that real fast. Whoop. Copy. Come on. Copy, copy, copy. Cut. Copy. Paste. Oh, you asshole. Well, whatever. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. There it is. Sai, what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you drunk again? Sai. Sai. Miyazaki. Let's say that we have a final image like this. This is not going to be perfect. You can tell she has a big pomp of hair. I kind of like it, but it's a problem. It's definitely a problem. Let's shrink it down to 28 like it's supposed to be. And notice now you have absolutely no resolution at all. But once I've gotten to this stage, I don't use binary, of course. Because binary, the thing about binary is that it's binary. Like you're working only in that color. It doesn't create any aliasing around it. Which is very good whenever you're working at very high resolutions. Because then you can draw a single line and then just one select in the middle of it. one, select in the middle of it. I'm working on a, hold on, new layer. This is the source of the problem. You can do that. And you can just select inside of a pure black line with no aliasing at all, and you will be able to color inside of it perfectly and instantly with no work at all. It's amazing. I fucking love it. It's great for working at large resolutions. Small resolutions, it doesn't work so good. It doesn't work so good in small resolutions. But once you get to this stage, like, let's say that you have a very blurry image like this, and you'll notice things like I need to shore up like this facial feature. Then you might sample a color somewhere and just try to like create a little bit more darkness. Don't overdo it. And just kind of do this, where you're intentionally darkening up the image with a normal, like a draft or a line brush of some kind. It doesn't matter what, as long as it does have some minor aliasing to it, but not too much. And then once you do that, you can go over and kind of shore up the very tiny version of this image so that you're sort of painting a very tiny, tiny little icon. And once you have painted your tiny little icon and gotten as much contrast, like right here, like I will sometimes use, because like you'll see here, like I sampled like a dark color like this, a darkish color. But whenever I go back over it, it just makes it white. That's because Psy is trying to sample in the white of the eye from this pixel nearby, and it's causing it to not blend correctly. So in this case, I would use a binary pen and just kind of drop down a little bit right here, and then go back over it with the line, and just kind of smudge it a little bit to try to create a little bit more darkness. And if it's not getting quite enough, you can put down just one little bit and then drag it out. And that'll blur out the original, and it'll work a little bit better. So once you have done that, you can just keep going back over it like that until you end up with something that has enough contrast that you can see it better from long range. And see it better from a smaller resolution. So that's generally how you deal with making these sorts of things. If you're not just straight up just shrinking down a photograph. And even if you're shrinking down a photograph, you're going to end up with problems just like this, in which case you'll probably want to go back over it too and hand paint little bitty tiny little bits of it. So that's how it's done generally. I'm sorry I don't have a final result for you guys, which I normally would, and it really actually kind of bothers me. But I just don't have time for it. I really need to get back to doing the Bloodborne animation. I want to make sure that I got something out this month, which I may have at the beginning of this month. I can't even remember. But more importantly, I have tax stuff to worry about. There's apparently like a missing $3,000 that Patreon, it doesn't know where it went, which is kind of a big problem because I was checking my money and it's like, how come you're saying that this amount of gross came in when my net was this? And I get back an email and they're like, oh shit, this is kind of weird. We don't know what's going on. But that was like a few hours ago, so I'm sure that they'll have it done thing by then. It'll be fine. It'll probably hanky dunky jory hum. Alright. But it's much easier again to just draw cheese. Just draw a hunk of cheese. See? Here's my final image for you guys. This is my final product. Just a thing of Swiss cheese. And it's always got to be Swiss, because Swiss has a lot of contrast because of all the lines. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And we'll just add a little bit of color. Oops. We'll add a little bit of color on another layer behind it. And there we go. We did it. We did it, guys. We made cheese. So everyone be prepared for my new cheese emoticon. Actually, on Twitch, you only have access whenever you first get partnered to 2 emotes. So that's all I have so far. But if I have like 25 subscribers in total, then I get, I think, 2 more. And I think right now I have like 9 or 10 subscribers. Anyway, that's an entirely different thing. Look forward to more cheese in the future, I guess. Thanks for cooperating with me. I wanted to make sure I didn't have any time lapses or anything because I don't really have time to edit it. This is going to go up in a hurry. Thanks, guys. Bye. Goodbye. I'm dying. I'm dying inside and outside, too. Bye.